And I don't even care if anyone calls me a Sally because I'm a snail and I'm never gonna fail. And you know what? You're gonna have to bail me out of jail.
Legendary filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife faced an unthinkable shock inside their own home, the very place that should have been their safest haven. What unfolded that night wasn't the result of a break-in or some random stranger. It came from within their own circle, from someone they deeply trusted. And from that moment on, their entire world flipped upside down. Rob, who spent decades creating heartfelt stories about love, family, and human connection, suddenly found his own life falling apart behind closed doors. His son, Nick Reiner, had battled personal challenges for years, and those struggles had already taken an emotional toll on the family. But nobody, not even those closest to them, could have imagined how intense things were about to get in the hours before everything came crashing down. Now, investigators are taking a second look at things Nick once said about his father. Comments that seem chilling when read today. Those old remarks now sound less like random frustration and more like quiet warnings that had been overlooked for far too long. The signs, it seems, had been there all along, hiding just beneath the surface while life went on as usual. The heartbreaking night in question, involving Rob and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, took place on December 13th, 2025.
That is totally falsified in every way.
It was supposed to be a warm, joyful evening filled with laughter and holiday cheer. The couple had attended a Christmas party at Conan O'Brien's home, surrounded by familiar faces, festive lights, and laughter. But under that glow, something felt wrong. Witnesses later revealed that tension suddenly erupted between Rob and Nick, turning the entire atmosphere tense. It wasn't a quiet family dispute. It was loud, heated, and impossible to ignore. Voices clashed, guests froze, and the cheerful night took a sharp, unforgettable turn. As the argument heated up, several people later said that Nick's behavior that night left them deeply unsettled. It wasn't just a typical family disagreement. Something about the way he acted stuck in everyone's minds long after the party ended. One guest described it as tense energy you could feel in the air, and that phrase spread fast as investigators started piecing together the timeline leading up to what happened later that night. Rob didn't lash out or walk away.
Sometimes I just come out to gather my sick thoughts.
Instead, he tried to keep things calm, steady, and under control, with Michelle right beside him through it all. Together, they handled the situation quietly, doing their best to keep it from turning into a full-blown public scene. When they finally left, it wasn't rushed or chaotic, it was deliberate, almost protective, like two parents trying to shield their family from something bigger brewing underneath the surface. To outsiders, it seemed like Rob and Michelle were just being careful, managing a tense family moment with grace. But behind that calm exterior, there was a storm quietly building. Later that night, Rob spoke on the phone with his close friend Eric Idle. And according to Eric, the call couldn't have sounded more normal. Rob was cheerful, optimistic, even inspired, talking about creative plans for the long-awaited Spinal Tap sequel. There was no panic, no stress, no hint of what was about to come. But privately, before that night, Rob had already opened up to a few trusted friends about something that had been haunting him. He said he was genuinely afraid of his own son.
They know the David who go on stage, who has his ways about him, but, they really want to know what's inside.
It wasn't anger, it wasn't frustration, it was real fear from a father who didn't know how to reach or help someone he loved deeply. Those quiet confessions would take on a much heavier meaning within hours. In the early morning of December 14th, something tragic unfolded inside the Reiner family home in Brentwood. Authorities later confirmed that the incident happened sometime before sunrise, though the exact time remained unclear. By mid-afternoon, concern had grown into alarm when their daughter, Romy Reiner, who lived just across the street, decided to check in after being unable to reach them all day. The moment she stepped inside, she knew instantly that something was terribly wrong. She called for help right away. Paramedics and LAPD officers arrived quickly, and both Rob and Michelle were found unresponsive. The scene was immediately secured as investigators began treating it as a serious domestic case from the very start. Then came the chilling detail that changed everything. There were no signs of forced entry at all. Every door and window was untouched, locked, and perfectly intact. That pointed to one chilling reality.
The geniuses, the brilliant ones, the people I'm referring to myself.
Whoever was behind this didn't break in at all. They were already inside or had been welcomed in willingly. Neighbors were questioned one by one, yet not a single person reported hearing anything strange that night. No alarms, no yelling, not even a crash. In a peaceful Brentwood neighborhood where sound carries easily, that deep silence felt disturbing on its own. Investigators quickly noted that whoever moved through the home did it with purpose. Quiet, deliberate, almost rehearsed. There were no signs of chaos or disorder, no struggle visible anywhere. Everything appeared controlled, as if the person knew exactly where to go and what to do. That eerie precision led detectives to one conclusion. Only someone familiar with the house could have moved through it like that. As detectives pieced the night back together, all attention turned toward Nick Reiner. Police records revealed that Nick had left the house shortly after the incident, checking into the Pierside Hotel in Santa Monica around 4 a.m. on December 14th. Hotel staff later told officers that Nick didn't seem agitated or unstable. He checked in quietly, spoke politely, and showed no signs of panic, no shaking, no confusion, just complete composure. But once Nick checked out, investigators searched his room, and what they found reportedly tied him directly to what had happened back in Brentwood. That discovery became the key piece linking him to the critical hours after the incident. His stay at the hotel was short, only a few hours before he disappeared again, moving quickly and keeping a low profile. Later that same day, security footage caught him at a gas station near Exposition Boulevard and Vermont Avenue.
We're close to making a deal that will, of course, make him the worldwide star that he deserves to be.
50 million on the line. And they were like practically just jacking me off the whole time.
Cameras showed Nick walking in casually, grabbing a drink, paying, and walking out like nothing was wrong. No nervous glances, no rush, no hesitation, just calm. Almost too calm for someone at the center of such a tragic timeline. That composure deeply contrasted with what investigators believed had already taken place hours earlier. By around 9:15 p.m. on December 14th, police located him near Exposition Park, just steps away from the University of Southern California campus. Patrol cars closed in from every direction in a tense but precise operation as stunned bystanders looked on. Nick didn't fight back or try to flee. He followed every instruction quietly. Within minutes, it was over. No chaos, no chase, just quiet compliance and the sound of handcuffs locking shut. By the end of that night, the investigation had shifted from uncertainty to a disturbing clarity. The puzzle pieces were falling into place. A heated argument, a silent home, no forced entry, a sudden disappearance, and a strange trail leading from Brentwood to Santa Monica, then across Los Angeles. Still, one question refused to fade. What exactly happened inside that house? Once the home was fully secured, forensic experts stepped in. Their work was methodical and relentless, analyzing every inch, every object, every microscopic clue. They weren't just searching for what happened, they were trying to pinpoint when it happened. Without cameras inside or clear digital timestamps, all they had was science to rely on. Temperature readings, physical markers, and trace evidence. Then came the most unsettling question of all. When did Rob and Michelle Reiner truly lose their lives? To find that answer, investigators turned to the smallest yet most telling indicators. They examined natural changes that occur when life fades, patterns that reveal how much time has passed. Through those findings, experts began to piece together the heartbreaking truth.
My mouth is getting a little parched because of how much I'm talking to y'all, but
Anyway, we really haven't delved into anything deep, so.
And the results, according to reports, were absolutely haunting. The medical examiner's report confirmed what detectives had feared. Both Rob and Michelle had passed away during the early morning hours, nearly 12 hours before anyone discovered them. That finding lined up perfectly with the timeline investigators had already built through witness statements and surveillance data. The heartbreaking events took place during the quietest stretch of the night, when the entire neighborhood was asleep, unaware that anything so devastating was unfolding just steps away. That silence turned out to be more than eerie. It was key to understanding how the tragedy unfolded without anyone noticing. As investigators examined the scene further, they turned their attention to the injuries. Forensic experts described multiple sharp force injuries, a clinical term for wounds caused by a sharp-edged object. These weren't from afar. They were close, face-to-face, within arm's reach. Each one required deliberate motion, repeated effort, and direct contact. What truly stunned investigators wasn't just the kind of injuries, it was how many there were. The evidence showed the attack didn't end quickly. It lasted longer than anyone expected, revealing a level of intensity that even experienced forensic teams found deeply unsettling. This wasn't a brief burst of chaos, it suggested something sustained, something that required both time and intent. From a legal standpoint, repetition carries heavy meaning. Investigators and prosecutors don't interpret emotionally. They look strictly at evidence. And in this case, the forensic data pointed unmistakably toward a continued course of action, one that didn't stop until the outcome was irreversible. Based on those conclusions, authorities formally charged Nick Reiner with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, one for each of his parents. In California, first-degree classification is reserved for cases believed to involve deliberate, intentional acts. But prosecutors took it even further. They added special circumstances due to there being multiple victims. That upgrade instantly pushed the case into the most severe category possible under state law. It wasn't just symbolic. It completely reshaped how the case would move forward. With those additional charges, the potential punishment became the harshest available: life in prison without the possibility of parole, or even the most extreme sentence depending on how the court ultimately rules. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office later released a statement expressing full confidence in their forensic findings and the legal strength of the case. They made it clear this was the maximum charge their office could bring under California law. From that moment on, the story stopped being only a family tragedy. It transformed into one of the most high-profile and emotionally charged legal battles Los Angeles had seen in years. By then, investigators had everything lined up: a solid timeline, a confirmed cause, and undeniable evidence of close, sustained contact. When Nick finally stepped into court for the first time, the full weight of the case hit like a storm. Every detail, every word, every glance carried the pressure of what had become a defining moment, not only for the Reiner family, but for an entire city watching in stunned silence. The courtroom that morning felt like it was holding its breath. The air was stiff, the silence heavy, and even the plain, neutral clothes Nick Reiner wore sent ripples through everyone watching. This wasn't some routine hearing. This was the first real turning point in a case that had already stunned Los Angeles. On the morning of December 17, 2025, Nick was escorted into a Los Angeles County courtroom for his initial appearance. Until that moment, everything about the case existed only in press briefings, headlines, and official documents. But now it was real. The story had entered the public legal arena, and every word spoken would become part of history. Security was intense. The courtroom was locked down with no cameras, no phones, no live coverage of any kind. Only a limited number of reporters, lawyers, and court staff were allowed inside. Those restrictions weren't random. They were set well in advance and stayed in place the entire session, a clear sign of how serious this case had become. When the doors opened and Nick Reiner was led inside, sheriff's deputies guided him straight to the defense table. The room went completely still. Every step he took echoed against the floor, and you could feel the tension tighten with every movement. This wasn't just another legal proceeding. It was the moment when a quiet Brentwood mystery transformed into a full-blown courtroom showdown. Almost immediately, people noticed what he was wearing: a harm prevention smock, the kind used in high-risk custody situations. It was unmistakable, and everyone in the room saw it. Yet no one spoke a word about it. The judge didn't comment, the lawyers didn't mention it, and the hearing moved forward as if nothing was unusual. That silence spoke volumes. It said more than any statement could. When the session began, the tone was clinical and cold. The charges were read aloud one by one. 2 counts of first-degree homicide. One for his father, one for his mother. There was no emotion, no backstory, just the law being laid out in stark, unrelenting language. Every word seemed to hang in the air. When asked if he understood his rights, Nick responded calmly and clearly with a short confirmation, his only words of the entire session. There was no plea, no question, no visible emotion. He sat perfectly still, eyes fixed straight ahead, face unreadable, as if he was somewhere far away, mentally sealed off from everything happening around him. After that, the hearing shifted gears to logistics. Nick's defense attorney requested a delay of the formal arraignment, asking for more time to prepare before entering any plea. The judge agreed quickly and scheduled the next date for January 7th, 2026. The prosecution didn't argue. No fireworks, no back and forth, just a calm, procedural step forward. But by the time the session ended, it was obvious to everyone in that courtroom this was just the beginning. The real battle was still to come. Then came the detail that stunned observers the most. Standing beside Nick was his defense attorney, Alan Jackson. Jackson's name carried major weight in legal circles. He wasn't just another lawyer. He was a top-tier courtroom tactician, known for taking on extremely high-profile, pressure-heavy cases. Over the years, he had represented some of the most controversial public figures imaginable, including Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, and Karen Red. That alone told everyone what kind of fight was about to unfold. This wasn't a temporary defense setup or a quick hire, it was a power move. It showed that Nick's team was preparing for a long, strategic war inside and outside the courtroom. Every motion, every document, every detail was going to be challenged line by line. As the hearing wrapped up, deputies escorted Nick out exactly the way he came in. Quiet, guarded, and expressionless. He didn't look toward the press, didn't wave, didn't speak. No statements were made by anyone. Not from prosecutors, not from the defense. Inside the room, reporters exchanged whispers, scribbling notes as fast as they could, still processing what they'd just seen. But once the courtroom emptied, the silence shattered outside. Within minutes, news alerts hit every major outlet, headlines spread across social media, and the buzz around the Reiner case exploded all over again. By that same afternoon, one question started dominating every conversation. Who was paying for this kind of defense? The public couldn't stop wondering, and even legal insiders admitted the math didn't add up. A case involving 2 first-degree homicide charges with special circumstances can drag on for years, and the cost of building a top-tier defense is staggering. These kinds of cases demand forensic specialists, expert witnesses, and endless pretrial motions, all of which burn through money fast. Legal experts estimated that before a single juror is even seated, the costs could easily climb past $1 million. But here's where things got strange. Nick Reiner didn't have any known active job or steady income that could explain how such an expensive defense was being funded. That mystery immediately set off speculation everywhere. Rumors spread fast across media circles and online forums. Some insiders quietly suggested that money tied to the broader Reiner family estate could be covering the bills, a possibility that made the situation even more complicated and uncomfortable. Within hours, new questions started swirling outside the courthouse. Could family-linked assets legally be used to fund the defense of the accused in a case like this? State law experts jumped in fast to clarify that the answer wasn't straightforward. In some situations, yes, shared or inherited assets can be used to pay legal fees. But in other cases, doing so can create major problems, sparking legal disputes or objections from other family members who may see it as unfair or morally wrong. The legality often depends on how the assets are structured and who controls them. But inside the courtroom, none of that came up. The judge didn't ask about the money, and the defense didn't volunteer any explanation either. Officially, the question stayed completely off the record, but outside, the debate was raging like wildfire. Some people argued passionately that no matter how serious the charges, everyone has the right to the strongest defense possible. Others felt uneasy at the idea that family-linked funds, money built from shared legacy and hard work, might be used to protect the accused from consequences. While the courtroom stayed calm, focused, and procedural, emotions were exploding everywhere else. Even within the Reiner family, things reportedly weren't peaceful. Sources close to the situation claim that some relatives weren't just focused on punishment. They were also pushing for Nick to receive serious mental health treatment alongside any criminal proceedings. To them, this wasn't simply a case about legal guilt or innocence. It was about long years of unspoken pain, family strain, and unresolved struggles finally reaching their breaking point. The entire case had shifted beyond evidence and legal codes. It had become a mirror reflecting deeper questions about family responsibility, moral boundaries, and what true justice really means. Still, none of these reports were ever confirmed officially. No court filings, no verified documents, nothing that could be proven beyond speculation. From the prosecution's side, the stance never changed. They stood firm and unwavering, stating that the evidence fully supported the most serious charges possible. Prosecutors emphasized both the severity severity of what had happened and Nick's movements afterward, arguing that the combination clearly met the threshold for those top-level charges. Because there were multiple victims, sentencing options were already limited to the harshest categories under California law, meaning that no matter how long the process took, the stakes for everyone involved couldn't have been higher. If convicted, Nick Reiner faced only two possible outcomes under California law: permanent incarceration with no chance of release, or the most extreme sentence the system allows. There were no lighter options on the table. It doesn't get more serious than that. While the world waited, the case kept evolving behind the scenes. Detectives were still combing through evidence, attorneys were quietly refining strategies, and whispers of new information began circulating in private circles. Everyone close to the investigation knew the next phase would be even heavier. The courtroom might have looked calm, but beneath that stillness, pressure was building fast, and it became clear Nick Reiner wouldn't stay silent forever. In the days that followed, the spotlight turned to something Nick had once said long before this tragedy. Words that now carried chilling new meaning. He had spoken about his childhood and admitted he never felt truly close to his father, Rob Reiner. Nick described growing up with a sense of distance, watching his family share laughter and connection while he stood on the outside, unsure how to fit in. By all accounts, Rob was a deeply devoted father, successful, engaged, and fully committed to his family. He shared close relationships with his other children, built around shared interests, daily routines, and creative projects. But for Nick, those same spaces never clicked. The home that looked perfect from the outside didn't always feel that way on the inside. It wasn't that Rob ignored him. If anything, he tried to give Nick everything he could. But fame and demanding work hours can create emotional gaps that no parent intends. And Nick quietly fell through one of them. Though surrounded by love, Nick later admitted that it didn't always reach him. That quiet feeling of isolation stayed with him into adulthood. Instead of feeling anchored at home, he began looking for belonging elsewhere. And that search led him toward dangerous paths. By his teenage years, he was already battling substance dependency. What began as experimentation quickly spiraled into something far more serious. His family never gave up on him. They sought professional help again and again, doing everything possible to pull him out of the spiral that was consuming him. Nick later spoke about the struggle openly, calling the substances powerful, destructive, and nearly impossible to escape. Each time he showed progress, the family's hope grew, and each relapse shattered that hope all over again. It became a painful cycle that stretched on for years. At one point, Rob tried a new approach. He decided to bring Nick into his creative world. In 2015, they worked together on Being Charlie, a film inspired by Nick's real-life challenges. For a moment, it seemed to work. Nick had structure, a sense of purpose, and something to hold on to. Those around the family said he looked healthier, more focused, like he finally had direction. But as time passed, the old patterns crept back in. The distance returned, the instability resurfaced, and every setback hit harder than the one before. For Rob and Michelle, the worry slowly turned into fear. What started as concern about Nick's recovery had become concern about everyone's safety. That emotional gap Nick once described never fully healed, even after years of therapy, effort, and love. Hope mixed with exhaustion, guilt mixed with heartbreak. It was a constant battle that never truly ended. By the time of that December Christmas party, the tension between them wasn't new. It had been building for years. That argument people saw wasn't just a random flare-up. It was the eruption of years of pain, frustration, and helplessness colliding all at once. In the days that followed, the rest of the Reiner family broke their silence with a short, heartbreaking joint statement from Rob and Michelle's other children, Roy and Jake. Their message didn't speak about the legal case or the accusations. Instead, it focused purely on grief, love, and the memory of their parents. They asked for privacy, and since then, they've remained completely silent. No interviews, no press conferences, just quiet mourning. A private memorial was later held. No cameras, no spectacle, only close friends, family, and longtime collaborators gathering to honor Rob and Michelle's lives. The ceremony was intimate, filled with emotion, remembrance, and quiet reflection. Across Hollywood, tributes poured in, not just for Rob's legendary work in film, but for the kind of man he was behind the scenes. A mentor, a voice of calm, someone who made others feel safe to create, to speak, to dream. And now, as the case continues to wind its way through the courts, one question still lingers. What really happened inside that house? Was it truly as straightforward as it appears? Or is there something deeper that's still unseen? What do you think? Do you believe Nick Reiner is responsible, or could there be more to this story than what's been told so far? Share your thoughts down below. And if you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share this video. Drop your opinions in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.